Let me remind everybody of the question. What was your first or most impactful experience with racism that has shaped you into the person you are today?
All right. That's a good one. All right. I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yes. My parents moved us up, my twin and my older brother, up to Buffalo. Go back down to Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1988 to bury my grandmother. So my twin and I, we get down there with my older brother, going through the town. You know, the South is totally different being up north. We decided to go get some ice cream. So it was a white couple behind us. So the white couple in front of us got their order, so we were next. And I looked at, I said, I'd like to have some strawberry ice cream. And the guy said, no, we're gonna take care of the person behind us. And I looked at my twin and I said, wait a minute. Excuse me, sir, we're next. And I looked behind and tell the couple behind us, this is not happening. I may have been born down here, but I've been up north and it's hot out there. We're next. We'd like to get our ice cream. And the guy said, well, this is my place. I picked who I want to serve. I said, sir, listen to me. This is not going to happen. And I apologize for the couple in the back. And I told my twin, you go get our father and my uncle, because I'm staying in this line and getting our ice cream. And the couple in the back said, no. You and your twin you guys are next. We'll wait. And the guy and the gentleman just stared at us. And I said, sir, we're not moving. We're not moving. We would like to get ice cream so we can go back and take care of our grandmother. And sure enough, the guy broke down because the couple behind us said, you know what? This is not worth it. They were here first. They were in line. Serve them. And I said to when we got out, I said to my father and my uncle, I said, I see why my father left, because this was in 1988. And my father went through a lot. My uncle went through a lot. And there is no way I could live in the South. And I have a tough time now up north, but to hear what my father and my uncle went through and what my twin and I had to go through in that ice cream parlor, that was uncalled for. But that's how it is in the South, and not just the South. I'm pretty sure you can say that is in the Midwest, out west, and even up north. It's why do they look at color? Why do they don't feel like, these two young men was in line just like everybody else, ready to get some ice cream, and you're gonna throw this at me and say, no, I'm gonna take care of the couple behind you, and you have to wait. No.
What year? You said it was 1988?
1988.
How old were you then?
27.
My mother's from Dayton, Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's right up the road from Chattanooga. So that's why when you said Chattanooga.
Yep. Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah. Okay. How about Latricia, you go next.
Okay, so this event was the most impactful to me. It was about 10 years ago. I've been working with my co-teacher, and I teach 8th grade mathematics, but we accelerate them to get 9th grade credit. We get them ready to move in college. And so 3 years in a row, we've been producing good numbers, like 12 people would pass and 20 people would pass the 9th grade exam in 8th grade. So the superintendent decided to come check out this duo of teachers working together, getting 8th graders from the South Bronx ready for high school and college in 8th grade. He's escorted to our classroom by our principal and walked in and asked, where are the teachers? Now, I look young, but I don't look 13, right? He could not fathom that 2 women of color were doing this work. They had to be someone else responsible for this good work. And that really hurt because, we work in a Black and brown school. We put in our heart and soul for our children, and you just disrespect us in front of our students. Oh, these can't be the people doing this because they're of color.
What year was that?
This was 2010, not that long ago.
No? Okay. Damien, you go next.
Okay. Since the question was talking about, when I looked at the question, it talked about early experiences. So I would say probably the earliest one that I remember that was the most impactful was way back in 1971. And I grew up just in metropolitan Detroit, in Pontiac. And in 71, earlier that year, they had passed the busing law, well, desegregation. So it was forced busing. So they were busing us to the other side of town. Well, approximately 1 week before school started, someone bombed the bus yard. They were attempting to blow up all the buses so that they couldn't institute the mandate to have segregation in place or desegregation in place. They ultimately ended up only blowing up a couple of them, so they still had enough of a fleet for us to go to school. So we get on the bus the first day of school, and we get to the, I'm in elementary, so we get to the elementary school, and when we get there, there's a huge crowd outside. And they were, well, everyone there was white because the area was white, but you had kids and you had grown-ups with signs, and they were hollering, they were calling us all kinds of names, and they were throwing rocks at the bus. So we sat there in the driveway of the school for a little bit, and finally the buses just took off and we came back home because we couldn't get off the bus. So I remember getting on the bus the next day, and we got there and the police were there. So the people were still out there, they were still hollering, they still had signs and everything, but they weren't throwing rocks or anything like that. So we were able to get off the bus and go into school. At the end of the school day, we got back on the bus and there were crowds there, and probably for the first couple of weeks, almost every day, they would just throw rocks at the bus. And I'm 9 years old at the time, and I couldn't understand why, you had these grown-ups out here that were kind of chastising and trying to harass and intimidate a bunch of kids who happened to be in a position where they didn't have any choice as to how and where they were going to go to school at. So that was one of the things that early on I realized, that you've got people out there who don't know anything about you other than what they can see, and that's how they made their determination of how they were going to treat you.
So the area that elementary school was in, what is that area like now?
It's a lot more diverse because it was not too far from where I went to college, but at the time it was roughly maybe 8-10 miles away from my house. But in the 70s, that's night and day. That
Right.
was night and day. Now it's definitely a lot more diverse because you've got the university has grown over that period of time, and it's kind of expanded into the communities around there. So it looks a whole lot different today than it did back then.
And what university was that?
At Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan.
Okay. All right. Mark?
I'd have to say my first experience was in grade school. We had gone to a restaurant in Northwest Jersey. I would say it was in the Chester area, which is a suburb, pretty well-to-do suburb, very well off. And we went to a diner there with my mom, my brother, and my younger sister. I think I might have been in maybe 7th or 8th grade. And we went into the diner. We sat down and got the menu. Look at the menus, waiting for service, and we saw one person get seated after us and got served. Another person, and I think after we saw, 3 or 4 people get served after us, and my mother said something, and we didn't get any kind of response, and my mom was just like, you know what, this is ridiculous. She got up, she made pretty much a scene, and we walked out. It's like they didn't even acknowledge us being there, and that was very very impactful, especially being so young and seeing that and living in that area for quite some time,
I would have to say when I was in high school, I'm from Boston, and I was in a preppy school, and I recall being asked by the basketball coach. She was always friendly to me if I wanted to play basketball, and I said, no, I don't play basketball, I swim and I play tennis. And she says, well, I mean, you'd be really good at basketball. And I looked at her and I said, why? And she said, I mean, you're tall. And I was like, okay. So I figured I'd try it. And, you know, just because I'm tall doesn't mean I can run and dribble at the same time. But, yeah, I mean, so I'm a tennis player and I'm a swimmer, but I did go out for the basketball team. 2 instances happened with that. During basketball practice, we had to stay a couple of days after school. And I remember running down the hall, getting to the side door, jumping off the platform and running to the bus. And the bus driver opened the door, closed the door real quick, and we drove off. I remember the coach telling me to stand in the middle of the court and to scare the other basketball players. I was like, how? She said, put your arms up and just go, ooga booga, ooga booga. And I was like, I just looked at her because I didn't know what to say. She's an adult. And that was a slap in the face that I actually remember. I mean, things have happened before that, but I don't remember them as I remember that.
Perry, yeah. To you,
Yes.
what does it mean to be Black in America?
It seemed like you always got to prove yourself. I remember when I got hired at Erie Community College as a professor, and then I got hired as the head track coach. You know, look at me as a human being like everybody else that's coaching in at the junior college level. Just don't look at the color of my skin. Same thing happened when I went up to the University of Buffalo. I became the men's coach up there. I just don't like the idea that they always got to look at the color of your skin and see if you are capable of handling the title as head coach. And I proved them wrong. Back to the junior college level, I won 4 national championships. And at the University of Buffalo, I sent 18 of my athletes to Division I championships. So I'm very happy about that, but it's always happened no matter where you go. They always look at, no, guys, I can do the same thing. I can coach like you. Just because I'm African-American, don't think I'm less than anybody. So I just think that it's very important that anybody that wants to make it into this world, you always got to prove yourself. And I tell my grandson and my son that you stand on your 2 feet. Be the young man, be the man that you are capable of being. Don't back down from anyone, no one. If you have a drive, you have a goal, you have a passion, go for it. And that's the only way I survive in this world, because seeing what took place with my father back in down south, I told myself, and I told my twin brother, my older brother, this is not going to happen to us. We got to put our foot forward. Just believe in yourself. You have to believe in yourself to survive in this world, and that's how I continue to live my life. And when I started officiating, the same thing happened. I looked at the starter crew back in the early, not the late 90s, and I said to myself, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? I see don't take this wrong. I see all these white starters, and I said, well, look at the talent that we have out here. Where is a Black starter? That's when I became a starter in track and field. Same thing, that's the technical manager. I said, I'm looking out there, hey, we got some good technical manager. And I said, wait a minute, there's no African-American. I'm the type of person, I would not sit back and I see something that will help everybody, not just, Black and white. I mean, everybody. I have no problem to put my foot in there and learn something and become something just because I'm an African-American.
Latricia?
What does it mean to be Black in America? My father was born and raised in South Carolina. He's 70, so do that math, right? My mother was raised in Alabama. She's the same age. I grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. So it's like and feels like they're constantly waiting for us to make a mistake, right? I'll get a chance to be a teacher, but once you do something wrong, OC, that's because she's this, right? That's because she's Black. I knew she would go off the handle. I knew she couldn't handle it. The only thing that we're allowed to be good at is sports. That's the only time that they never second guess or never think that we're not the best. They assume that we're going to be great at basketball or good at track and field because we're Black, but everywhere else is you are waiting for you to fail and do something wrong. It's just very tiring to constantly try to be perfect, to stand on top of your game and never show anger. You're an angry Black woman. Oh my God, what you gonna do now? Yeah, I'm allowed to be angry. I'm not gonna kill 30 people with a rifle. I'm not gonna blow up this school. I'm just mad right now, right? And we are not allowed to be angry because of the fear, the irrational fear that they have towards us. Yeah. It's tiring being Black in America.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of meetings that I'm in, especially even on USATF, that, you know, I don't feel like I can always say exactly what I want to say the way I want to say it. Because, you know, if I'm the only minority in the meeting, then I'm the angry Black man, you know. And so you have to be really careful with that. But you see other people do that all the time.
Yep.
You know, and nobody says anything to them about it. They just let them go on and on and on. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Damien?
I would say for me, at least in my experience, it means always asking yourself another question. You know, if you're driving down the street and a police car pulls in behind you, you start asking yourself, well, what did I do wrong? Or, you know, why is he gonna stop me? You know, is this gonna be one of those times where I gotta worry about, you know, having an issue with him? So you always ask yourself that question. And then the other thing is you always seem to be, or at least constantly seem to be answering that extra question. You know, for me being in the corporate world, I've had so many people, you know, either people that were below me on the org chart, peers, or above me in the positions that I've been in, where they kindly say, you know, it would be like, hey, what's your background? You know, like, why are you in this position? You know, how did you get here? Because they wanted the question. I need to explain to them what I've done in my career to get to the point that I'm at now. So they don't feel like it's, oh, well, they had to have somebody. You know, they had to have somebody here. And it means constantly having to work towards making sure that my resume on its own was able to justify why I was there. And then one of the other things that came to mind when Mark was talking was that situation, and the same one when Perry was talking, was the situation of being ignored. You know, and it's in a restaurant, they can walk past you a couple of times, but I can remember being in, like, going into a jewelry store where it's relatively small, and you go in there and you see people come in there and somebody will say hello to them and how can I help you? And you're in there and you walk around and around because you want to get some service. And eventually, if you haven't left because you're frustrated, somebody finally comes up to you and says, you know, has anybody helped you? And they know nobody has because it's not that big a place. You know, they know no one has. So eventually they're like, oh, I got to go over there. And a lot of times that might be due to them just trying to qualify whether or not you can make this particular purchase or not. So, you know, asking yourself that question, answering those questions, and sometimes just having to get past the point of being ignored is something that I think most people have to deal with on a daily basis when they walk outside of their houses.
have you had any experiences working for Mercedes-Benz? I know you drive Mercedes. So have you ever been stopped or questioned when you had one of the nicer cars or something?
Maybe a half dozen times or so, and it depends on where you are. But yeah, I've been stopped quite a few times with that. We got a report of somebody matching your description in this car. You know, and the strange thing about it is my car has Florida plates, and this has all been in Texas. It would have been pretty easy to know if somebody had stolen a car from Florida and drove it to Texas.
Right.
So yeah, it happens, and you just kind of, you know, and then they ask the question, whose car, and all of this, and yeah, it's happened. It's happened. I worked for Ford before that, and it probably happened a dozen times with Ford too. So maybe 20
really?
times. Yeah, it happens all the time.
I bought a new car. I think it's been almost 3 years ago now, and it's a convertible Camaro. And I put a police license tag on my car to keep from being stopped every time I drove somewhere in it. Yeah, because my wife was like, "Why did you put that on there?" I said, "Because it's a convertible, you know." And I'm like, if I don't put this on there, I will get stopped because people will think that this car is too nice of a car for me to be driving. So,
Crazy.
yep. So
being Black in America, one of the things that I got or would get often is, "Oh, you speak so well," is because, you know, I don't talk Ebonics or broken. I'm like, you know, I speak very educated. You know, it's almost like it's hard to understand that Black people can be educated. You get that semblance. I get it. My sister, who's a 60 Minutes producer, gets it like all the time. And you know, we grew up in a predominantly white area in Northwest Jersey. You know, we've been here pretty much our entire lives. And it's like, for instance, you know, when I was in sales and I was a store manager once, a lady had called in, and she had some kind of issue or some question. I said, "Come in and see myself," you know, Mark Williams. And, you know, I always would get, "Oh, you also sound so white." And I'm like, what does that mean? So this lady called on the phone, and, you know, I explained to her, and I saw her up front talk to the greeter, and the greeter, you know, and I saw her point to like, "Oh yeah, Mark Williams is right in the back there. He's right there." And they pointed to me. And the lady, no lie, took a triple take. She went like 3 times. Couldn't believe that she was speaking to someone that was Black, just because of the way that I spoke. But it you know, you always get where they don't expect you to be educated. They always expect you to not have, you know, a lower level of education. And, you know, I have my master's degree, and they just don't expect that.
Donna?
I usually have to do twice as much or work twice as hard to be half as good. When I walk into a room, I'm immediately noticed. I can't hide what I look like. I also, like Mark, I talk on the phone with doctor's offices because I have a philosophy that I'm the first face that you see, so therefore I set the tone. And I've been told a lot that I can set the tone. And I worked for one particular doctor, and all of his clientele would come in. They were a different, I want to say nationality, but they were very surprised and shocked to see me there as his office manager running everything. But the doctor said that his clientele had picked up because of me dealing with the clients and talking to them. And so that was great until he had enough of his clients to say, you know, she's not like us. You need to really find somebody like us. My daughter can work for you. He eventually, you know, after 6 or 7 months, he kind of went to whatever they were saying. But it's hard sometimes because you know what you're doing on certain things. You have an education level, you have certain training, and you've gotten certain certifications, but they're not enough. And you can work at something and be the #1 person in it and still be turned down by those that don't look like us and say, well, I'm working with so-and-so, I've decided to go another way. Now that could be for any number of reasons, but a lot of times it is because of my complexion, the color of my skin. And it's hard because I want to do things, I want to work, I keep getting training, I keep getting educated, but it never seems to be enough. And so my husband has now noticed it. He's very fair and he sees the difference, how he's treated. And it's just rough. It's being Black in America is dangerous. It's rough. You have to constantly be less than who you are so that you don't offend those around you that don't look like you and call you problematic and uppity or troublesome. You know, you have to walk a thin line. You really do. And being pulled over, oh gosh, even as a Black woman, is if I see those lights and I put my hands on the dashboard, I don't know what their frame of mind is going to be. I don't know if my dad is a police officer, my brother is a police officer, my daughter's a police officer, but I'm still subject to whatever the whim of an officer is. And so it's scary being Black in America.
All right, last question. That's everybody, right? All right. Last question. What are you doing and what do you hope other people can do to enact or encourage change in society? Period.
I just hope people realize to stop looking at the color of the skin and look at the person's inside. That's what we have to start striving for. And with everything that's been going on for the last month and a half is like, you know, treat us as human beings. That's all we want. It's not the color of our skin that you got to treat us different. We're Americans. We belong here like everybody else. Treat us, give us the respect that we deserve. Don't, just because of the color of our skin, you're gonna try to break us down. You're not gonna break us down. That's just gonna, I see some of the people are fighting and I see some of the people are making some sense that, hey, enough is enough. We cannot go through this anymore. I watched, there's two movies I watched during these period. The race with Jesse Owens going through into the Olympics, and Martin Luther King when they went through Selma. To watch those two during that period of time, during each event that we're going through, it's like enough is enough. People have to start realize we're a human being like everybody else on this earth. That's what I wish for. Don't look at the color of my skin. Look at the ability that I have, just like you.
Thanks. Latricia?
So, you know, one thing that I hope and pray will come out of these conversations and all of the posts that are put on Facebook and Instagram is that people really look at their heart. Why do I respond in a certain way? How come this Black Lives Matter triggers so much hate in me? Like, I just want to be treated as a human being. I want to matter. I want you to look at me and not think that I'm less than. But that has really triggered some Americans a negative tailspin. So I've been meeting with my principal. We've watched movies via Zoom and we've discussed them. He reached out to me asking what can he do to become educated, you know? And I think that that's very powerful that he felt comfortable enough to ask me to help him through his whiteness. Because he had no idea how privileged he was. He had no idea what was really happening because he walks out of his house and is safe and secure and goes to work and comes back home with nothing, you know, that is potentially damaging to him. So I am taking on that challenge of helping him see our side of America. And people need to look to themselves and try to change.
Okay. Damien.
One of the many mottos that we have in my fraternity is lifting as we climb. And it's one that I take seriously because I think that anybody who has have had some level of success should bear the responsibility for helping someone else along. That's the lifting part as you go up. Bring somebody along with you as you start to make your way up. So one of the things that I do is I mentor. We have a boys to men group at our church. So it's middle school and high school kids. So I constantly am involved in that in terms of mentoring kids. And one of the things a couple of the things that I try to make sure that they understand is that instant gratification is generally not very good, because easy come, easy go, that you actually have to put some work into it. And you have to kind of sow a seed to get to a certain point. One of the things that I've always do with, because it's different groups that rotate, but I'll ask a guy who says that he wants to be a pro basketball player, and I'll ask him if he shot 500 jump shots today, or if he ran 2 or 3 miles, because the guys that are there have done something like that all the time. And if he's not doing it today, then when he gets to be 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, that he's not prepared himself to do that. So I always make sure that they understand that the things that you do today are going to have an impact on what you do tomorrow. So you have to constantly set goals for yourself. And as you start to achieve those goals, then you automatically set another goal. The other thing is trying to get them to extrapolate from what it is that they can see and see what the bigger picture is. What happens if you don't go to school today, right? Well, you missed that assignment. If you miss that assignment, you could possibly not pass the class. If you don't pass the class, you don't graduate from high school. You don't graduate from high school, you can't get to college. You don't get to college, you can't get that degree. And so if you're telling me you want to be a doctor and you didn't do your homework today, you just lost your chance of being a doctor. So I get them to constantly try to expand their mind. And what's the next step? You tell me something, what's the next step? What's the next thing in that? What's the next thing there? What's the next thing there? And the more they can see a larger picture, the more their mind starts to grow, and the more they get to understand a lot more, and they start looking at different areas where they can see how success is built. And if they can do that, then they have the same responsibility to help somebody else.
That's pretty good, Damien. I learned more about you today than I know about you all the time I've known you. And I kind of along the same lines as Perry, when I got first involved in the administrative side of Masters Track and Field, I kept seeing these officials walk around with these backpacks at their annual meeting. And I was like, what's an annual meeting? I don't know what this annual meeting thing is. And finally, some official told me where there's this big meeting we have every year in December where we go over the rules and regulations and we adjust policies and procedures and all this and that. Because I wanted to be able to help or make a difference. I was kind of involved at the association level a little bit, and I didn't realize that all the people that were working the track meets I was running as a kid was volunteering their time all day on a Saturday or Sunday to be at the track all day for me to have fun. And so this was my way of giving back to the sport. Mark, what would be yours?
For me, I try to always share the knowledge. I get a lot. Like, how'd you get to where you are? Whether it's track and field, whether it's professionally, work-wise. So I always try to share the knowledge, share what I do, show that there's no real secret to it. You just got to do the work. You put it in. Like track-wise, I post everything I do. I try to share as much as I can. Like there's no secret to it, just so that folks that don't know how to do it, they can see exactly how it's done. After I come back from big championship meets, I go around the Little League track associations in my area, and I talk to the youth, explain to them, what I do as a career, but I also run and I do a workout and I train with them for the day and work with them. And I usually do that round with all the Little Leagues in the area. But it's always like, Damien said, as we move up and we gain more knowledge and learn more, we also need to turn the hand back and share that knowledge and, take some folks along with us.
Okay, Donna?
All right. What are you doing and what do you do? hope other people can do to enact or encourage a change. Okay, so one thing that I'm doing is I am not teaching hate. I have grandchildren, and they're very young, but I'm not teaching them hate. And I've seen online and in the news and different venues where people are teaching their children to hate brown and black people. That disturbs me to my soul, because children are not taught. I mean, children are not naturally haters. They have, you know, an understanding of some things, but to teach a child to hate another race is a sick individual. So I teach my grands how to protect themselves and not to dumb themselves down to be accepted by anyone. I'm teaching them to get educated, and I educate them as much as possible. The one thing I like to do is when I go places, I like to smile a lot. I'm not smiling right now because this is a different type of a feeling and a subject, but I like to greet people, and I always speak. One thing at Howard, I had a teacher in it's called not Black History or Black Lives. It was something else. And I took the class because I was curious. I said, I'm Black, I know about me, but she encouraged us as students to go out and greet other students on campus when you see them. And I said, oh, but I don't know them. She said, do it. You'll be surprised what you see. And at 19 years old, I'm out greeting people, and they're looking at me like, I don't know you, who are you? And I realized that if we don't take an opportunity to get to know one another, or just to smile and say something kind or greet someone, people may never hear it. We don't know what everybody else is going through, black, white, brown, red, anything. We need to be available to give of ourselves. I'm not saying throw yourself at something so that you get used and abused, but you know, one thing I'm doing, there are two friends of mine, and we realized during this COVID that there are a lot of people that are not getting unemployment, that are not getting a paycheck, that are not working. And we found out that these people were not just people, but they were immigrants. And there's a huge thing in this country. Some are for it, some are against it. But my thing is, if you're here and you're hungry, feed them. And so friends of mine, two of my friends and I started to feed families. They couldn't get to the places. I mean, we're just doing that. It's not up to you, me, but it's all up to all of us to try to help each other, all of us. And there are some people that just don't want to be helped. They just want to stay ignorant, stupid, foolish, nasty, mean, grumpy, whatever you want to call it. But that's not me. And as Black and brown folks, we're not vengeful. And I mean, I'm not, and I don't know anybody else that's vengeful, nasty, want to kill somebody, but we do get angry. And we get angry and we get hurt and we want to explode, but we realize that could cause us a bullet to our head or something else. And I'm sorry if I'm getting off on the wrong thing. And so one of the things that I'm dealing with now, and I won't say who it is, but there's a certain group that does not want to hear anything about what we as officials, coaches, not USA Track and Field, let me make sure that's clear. This is different. They don't want to get any information or help or understanding on how to deal with the Black Lives Matters issue. They have completely silenced everything. They don't want to deal with it. They're hoping it just goes away. But that's not. Lastly, I tell myself and I tell my family, I am not better than anyone else. I'm just like you. I breathe, I get sick, I laugh, I cry. None of us is better than anyone else, none of us. And if I can liken it to, as part of my faith, when I think about, you know, the Bible says that we're the body of Christ. So we'll put the body of Christ to the side and look at society as a body. If I'm the hand and all I am is the hand, I need the feet to go from place to place. I need the eyes to see, the brain to figure it out, the ears to hear, I need everybody to help me move forward and get living. And I'm tongue-tied right now, but it doesn't make any sense that we are segregating ourselves and all the hands are over here and all the ears are over here. And there's a joke that they talk about, and I'll be finished. The eye said, well, I'm the best one in the body and I can see everything and I'm better than you. The ear said, no, you're not. I can hear what's being said and you need me. And the feet said, nope, you need me because I'm the one that takes and drives everybody forward. And so then, you know, they were all bickering. And so the backside, the butthole, excuse my term, said, I'm the most needed and I am the most respected and I'm the top guy. Why? Because if I shut it down, all y'all are gonna be blind, crazy, can't hear, can't see, can't move. And I thought about that. I mean, it's gross, but you know what? We even need the buttholes. But the thing is, and I'm sorry, I mean, I'm saying it kind of crass, but we have to be willing to forgive and protect ourselves and our families and our children. We don't have to take it, but we have to be willing to say, okay, you know what? Just back off and walk away and don't deal with them. You got to protect yourself. And so that's what I'm doing, and that's what I've done.
Well, great. I want to thank everybody for coming today and participating. Donna, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Yes, real quick. Do what you can to get people involved, no matter how small it is. And some of you are doing that, but let's support one another. Let's be out there and support other members that are masters or that are not masters, that are geezer jocks. You know, let's just support one another and just figure out what we can do to bring us a little closer together, because we all have something to offer.
Ron, I just wanted to say one thing.
Sure.
Perry earlier mentioned a couple of movies that he had watched. I don't know if you guys had an opportunity to watch 13th, which is on Netflix. I would highly recommend it for anybody, because on this particular subject that we're talking about, it gives a historical account of some of the things that have happened in this country and how they affect a lot of people today, from the war on drugs to even going back to the 1920s and 30s. And it talks more about how systemic racism is in this country. So it's not just person versus person. It's more like institutions that have been put in place and things and laws that have been enacted that have kind of helped to perpetuate a lot of the problems here. It's called 13th on Netflix. It's extremely eye-opening, and to a certain degree, it's a little hard to watch. But if you've got somebody that wants to get a little bit more education on the subject, it's one of the things that I highly recommend.
Well, all right. Has anybody else got anything else in closing?
If folks get a chance, my sister, who's a 60 Minutes producer, did a piece on Tulsa, I think 2 weeks ago. So on the Tulsa, the Black Wall Street massacre back in 1921. So if you get a chance, Nicole Young is her name, 60 Minutes producer. If you can go back and watch that piece online, probably tbsnews.com, you can find it. Tulsa was not the first time, and he had sent me a YouTube link on back in, I think it was right around the turn of the century, around 1900, where a similar thing happened down in North Carolina. And it's probably happened several times across the country, outside of what we know of. I think the 10 or 12 that we know of, it was something that happened regularly across the country that probably hasn't been fully documented everywhere that it's happened. So it's happened probably hundreds of times that we're not aware of.
Yeah, that was 1898.
Rosewood, Florida had the same kind of situation. 1921, I believe, the same time frame. Rosewood, Florida.
Did something happen in Philadelphia too?
Yes. Mm-hmm. But,
yeah.
Philadelphia, Virginia.
How do we keep hope alive?
Florida. Yeah.
How do we keep hope alive? How do we do that?
As I say, if you hold on, possibilities exist. You know, we have to be the change we want to see. We need to make sure, you know, and I feel very encouraged to see that, you know, all the protests that are going, and it continues to go. And I hope that legislation comes from this. This time just feels different.
And with the hope of legislation, we have the access to email the people that are running, the people that are in office now. We can send mass emails like the laws that are outdated. Okay, yep. So now's the time. We need to fix this. Don't let it say, oh, okay, somebody's gonna do it. I am. Are you? Like, who else is gonna do it? We all have to email and let our voices be heard. They have generic forms online. I've done it at least 100 times. The same form. What's your complaint? dots, put your email, send it in. It's really that simple. Find out who your congressperson is and get their link, send it in.